this isn't unique to Havelock Wool any more than it is, an effort to affect positive change in an industry and where change comes from and where demand generation.
And I think an ideal example of what you're saying are the van lifers. So over the last 2 years or so, I feel like there's this massive interest in people converting vans from just automobiles to places that they can actually live in. Yeah. And the other ones who are the other ones praising sheep wool and the other ones demanding it.
Yep. That's right. And I mean, look, like, of course, we talk a lot about buyer persona, right? Anybody running a business who's trying to sell a product is having that conversation. And when you look at the van lifers and the schoolie guys, they get mad if we don't include them, in the same breath. And they're very much a part of the equation. These are, they're interested, they're curious, they're young, they're educated, they want to be outside. I mean, these are all people who understand the value of clean air and high quality, non-toxic materials. And again, like this stuff all just points straight at a wool fiber, right? The high nitrogen content means it doesn't want to burn, as we talked about. The amino acids in wool will irreversibly bond with formaldehyde, NOx, and SO2. These are things that are very much a part of your everyday life. Certainly in building with formaldehyde, NOx and SO2 in all sorts of products in the home.
And especially from exhaust fumes in cars and vans.
Exactly, NOx from your exhaust fumes, because a lot of these things are diesel. Yeah. So, it's just such an easy discussion. And it's basically been a really fun proving ground for us to be able to speak directly to our consumer and understand their needs and wants, knowing that luckily we had the product that easily matched up with those needs. And so, but I will say we sort of fell into it backwards, because I bought one of those things in 2016 for fun. And of course I insulated with wool, but we went a year and a half before we actually talked to anybody about it. And then next thing you know, we had this, we're sitting around saying, we're talking about these really difficult places to insulate as we start to build more airtight, and you've got, condensation and moisture issues and, breathability. And it's like, holy cow, this all happens and gets, exacerbated in a van. And we can address that with wool. And so we've been doing that successfully and proudly. We're over 30,000 vans at this point.
Wow, that's impressive.
And nobody calls and complains. I've redone mine a couple times. I take the floor up and the bats are right where I left them. They look exactly the same. And that's just because of the integrity of a wool fiber, that no other insulation fiber can do that. And so we've had a great, an unexpected amount of fun in that space.
And do you think those van lifers have encouraged homeowners to pick up the product and use it in their homes?
No question about it. And so that's what's happening now, right? We've found some real traction there. We found a real following. It's been easy because it's the outdoors folks, and outdoors folks love wool, right? So that's been kind of the easiest discussion to have. The other thing, in fairness, we should talk about this a little bit, is the cost dynamic. Insulating a van with wool. To be honest, we see this synthetic product in Thinsulate, which I think costs more than our stuff. Which is mind-boggling, but we're happy being where we are. And so, you've got this sort of easy discussion happening with the person who's going to occupy that space. And we basically took that and learned from it and said, we need to not talk to the middleman, who is the builder or the architect. We need to talk to the occupant. And when you have that conversation and you get people understanding the advantages of wool that, I mean, I say this all day long, so I'm sorry that it's so redundant, but like, it's impossible to do better than a wool fiber. And once you start down that conversation, like, there's no turning back. Now, it costs more, right? And so that's the hang up for people. It's very easy to get somebody excited about wool. But, you know, insulation is roughly 2% of construction costs in a home. And so against an overall budget, the increase for wool is kind of a rounding error. But it's not, you know, $500 for 3 bags of wool for your van, right? It's 30, these are arbitrary numbers, but you know, it's $30,000 instead of $20,000, right? That $10,000 goes a long way against some other stuff. And we appreciate that, right? Because it's not just that wool's a little bit more expensive. Everything is a little bit more expensive if you want to build properly.
That's true.
Right. And so,
and it can have a larger impact on your indoor environment than something superficial that you would just readily throw money at, that you wouldn't think twice about.